So, welcome in as you're joining. We've got an exciting session for you today because we are going to be talking about one of the things that people seem to love to hate in the social media world, and that is stories. Andrea, you just disappeared from my speaker view. That was so weird.
Oh, here I am.
That's so bizarre. Well, there we go.
Yeah,
Okay.
there we go.
So this is my co-host for this session, Andrea Slade, and as we were chit-chatting about before we got started, she has guested five times on the Pulse lately. One to do a V. Oh my God, Vickie. She's done 4 parts of a VA series, and then she did an Instagram stories one with us. We just did that one purely in response, and then it turned into this. So thank you for being here. Andrea is an online business manager, a manifesting generator. I'm going to let you take it away and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do in your business.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you so much for having me. I love the Bodygraph community. I am a 2-4 sacral manifesting generator, and I am an online business manager, OBM, which is just a trendy way right now of saying I'm a project manager for small businesses. And I love to organize all the things and find the most efficient way to do it so that you have freedom in your business, so that you can scale your business, all of the fun things. So that's where my passion lies for sure. And I work with all levels of business owners because I was raised by small business owners. So sometimes,
Really?
yep, sometimes the people I'm working with are like 6 figures and scaling more, and some people are starting out and they need the systems or foundations so that they can build their dream.
Mhm. And as I said in the beginning, all of Andrea's horror stories from businesses come from my world in business. When she said she loves to organize the back end of the business, I'm like her nemesis. I'm the biggest challenge of her life is getting my stuff in order. And I'm always breaking it and skipping steps and all the things. So we have fun with that. Usually we have fun with that. So I would love to know who's in the room with us today. If you would light up the chat with me, it would really help us to be able to cater this because we will be in response to your needs as we go through. And we really want to make sure that we're giving you the information that you need that's going to move you forward in your business. So would you type a 1 in the chat if you use stories now with purpose? If you know exactly what you're doing and you use them purposefully and you're 100% comfortable on stories? Would you type a 2 in the chat if you use stories, but there's no rhyme or reason, no purpose, you have no idea what you're doing? Would you type a 3 in the chat if you do not use stories yet? Okay, so a good mix of 2s and 3s. 1.5, I love that. I can never just choose the black or white answer either. I love it, love it, love it. Okay, so mostly 2s and 3s. That's awesome. So that's what we are here to talk about. If you're the 1.5, Judith, hopefully you will get some tips here that you can use. Andrea, do you have the link that you can share in the chat? Thank you. So you don't have to look at this right now, this link. Giddis will have it housed with the replay and Business Mastery Hub for you afterwards. But Andrea has done a sheet, well, I think it's 3 sheets of prompts for you, story prompts for you that you can take and use from now until the end of time. And prompts in our world never means here's a template, do it this way. It always means you get to use it according to your design and your business and your particular audience. So I find that Andrea is like just amazing at when I'm stuck in something in my stories and I can't like really respond to something, I'll just message her and say, okay, give me some ideas right now. And she'll rhyme off like 20 ideas for me really, really quickly. So that sheet is going to be gold there. It is a link where you are going to be able to make a copy of it. So you can make a copy of it. You can work in your own in the document, change it in any way you like, or you can print it off, whatever works for you. So first things first, I guess I will hopefully talk a little bit, Andrea, you've disappeared again on me, but I'm trusting you'll come back. We'll talk a little bit about why stories. And the thing that I most love about stories when you are building your, I'm going to say Instagram sometimes more than Facebook because that's what I use, but you can use Instagram or Facebook stories. The thing that I love about them the most is that they're a really good place to get your feet under you in your business online and show yourself because they only last for 24 hours. So you don't need to I don't think we need to worry about being perfect online anywhere, but that might be a discussion for another day. But in our stories, we really don't need to worry about it. There's no curating, there's no making things fancy, there's no perfect Canva graphics. We don't have to worry about any of that. And it's a really good place to practice. All of social media is a good place to practice. I think that we could all be a lot happier in life and in our businesses if we use social media as a testing ground instead of taking it as seriously as we sometimes do in our businesses. Social media is a great place to test content before you put the effort into a blog post or a podcast episode or a YouTube video. Get some legs under it in social media. And stories are so great because it's 24 hours and it's gone. So if you do something stupid or you do something ugly or you do something that you don't love, it's going to be gone in 24 hours anyway. So it's not such a big panic as when it's on your feed and you think, oh my gosh, I've ruined everything. How could I have done such a thing? Andrea, what would you say to wise stories? Would you add anything to that?
Well, my famous line, people want to know.
Yes.
And I'm gonna say sometimes it seems silly. Like, do people really want to know what you're up to through the day? Yes, they do. Because you're building a virtual business, and these are people you're not going to run into at the grocery store, at the library, or when you're walking in your neighborhood, right? So that's how people stay connected these days and feel connected with you. And it is the fastest way to create touch points in your business.
Oh, can you say more about that?
Yes, I can. So touch points, I think it was what, like 2020, 2021, where it was 27 touch points in your business to
Mhm.
convert from a cold contact brand new into your world into a sale. It is more than that now. I am not certain
7 hours
thank you, 7 hours.
in
I was gonna say, I
2025,
didn't even
seven
count
hours.
thank you. I was like,
Mhm.
it's not even a touch number now. So 7 hours of content. And every time someone engages with your stories, that is one of those touch points. So it's their fastest access, your easiest access to building touch points up with people. And the more people engage with you, the more comfortable they become engaging in your stories in the future. So you're actually strengthening that relationship the entire time as you build out to that 7 hours.
Mhm. And what you'll find over time is that you had better languaging for this than I did when we talked about it last time, Andrea, but the people who are engaging in your stories and who are following your stories are your, what did you call it? Like the most highly nurtured people that you have in your
Yeah.
world.
That's it. They are so nurtured. Like, I love to compare that to, say, your email list. So someone might be on your email list and they're receiving your emails, but they're not opening everyone or they're skimming them, etc. And that's not necessarily a very like warm exchange in marketing, but in your stories, it's immediate. Like when they engage with you, it's immediate. You feel it and they feel it. So it creates a really warm, nurturing effect immediately. And the more that happens, like if someone engages with you one times, then 10 times, then 100 times through your stories, that know, like, trust factor builds like a snowball down a hill. Like it just keeps rolling and rolling and getting bigger and bigger. So they are your most nurtured contacts.
Mhm. And that's one of the reasons why when we look at stories, Instagram, Facebook stories, we look mostly, not that you're selling in your stories all the time, but when you are selling online, selling in your stories is um, more welcome, let's say, than selling in your feed. So one of the greats of the online space, our Jonak, he taught me a long time ago that your feed is the heart and your story is the hustle. So that's where people really go to see what it is that you're doing. And I know, like Andrea said, has anybody ever felt like that? Like, who cares what I'm doing? Just me? Yeah, good. And sometimes I even still message her and I'm like, oh my God, who cares? But people do care. People do want to see behind the scenes. And I think that it's a little bit like you talked about, Andrea, where used to be that people would run into us at the grocery store. Like I owned a retail store. People would run into me all over the place. They would come into my store. They would hear about my family. I would hear about their family. We would talk about their sports. We would talk about all of the things that were going on. And we've kind of lost that in this online space. We're not having those same conversations with customers on a regular basis. So this is a place where we can really bring them into our world and show them what's going on and allow them to know us. Would you add anything to that?
No, I think that was very succinct.
Okay. So then the thing that my mind automatically went to, and you can let me know in the chat or nod your head if I can see your beautiful face, is how much do I have to show? What if I don't want to show myself? What if I don't want to? Does anybody feel like that? Like, I don't know how much I need to say. Yeah. Do you want to talk about that first, Andrea?
Yeah, I would love to. I mean, I will say this probably 100 times today, but people do want to know.
Yeah.
So, when you're sharing on your stories, like if you don't feel done up, not that you have to be on your stories at all, people want the real you, right? That's a whole nother side topic. But it can be like I'll frequently post a picture of my keyboard so that I'm maintaining client confidentiality while I'm working to share what I'm up to for a client. And I will take a picture like a boomerang of my feet moving when I'm walking the dogs. So it doesn't always have to be like your face, phone in front of you right here, sharing on your stories, but people do want to know what you're up to. They want to be invited in to see what's going on behind the scenes. BTS, behind the scenes.
Yeah. My mind always goes to back to school for my retail days. Um, and I think you get to choose how much you show. Each
Yeah.
of us gets to choose how much we show, and we need to let that be okay. So, a fifth line profile might show completely differently than a third line profile online. And that's okay because that's what our people want from us. That's what our people need from us. They need to lean into who we actually are. Who we are is how we are defined in our human design. Let people lean into that. 3-5, you're unhinged. I hope you're showing them all the crazy. I want all the 3-5s to show all the crazy all the time. Um, and I think another thing about stories, this is kind of a side note here, but I think another thing about stories is that it really allows people to see you as a real person in your business. You're building a personal brand. So whatever level of yourself you choose to show, we're just going to assume that that's going to be okay because that's what your people are going to need. And you may change and grow into that more as you go along storying. You may not, and either way is okay, but they are getting to see the real you. And there is so little authenticity online right now that it is scary. Anybody else feel that with me on that? Like scary. The number of people that I am seeing, the number of coaches in the online space, which a lot of us fit into that group. And I'm reading through some of their stuff or listening to the reels, and I'm going, pardon my language, I'm going bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. Like, no. Buyer trust is at an all-time low. Never before have we seen such low buyer trust, and the online space is noisy. So I think the way that we keep our people, I love the term sticky, but with the way that we invite our people to be sticky with us is by showing them who we are. So you choose what that looks like for you. One of the things that I suggest to my participants in Content by Design is that they make lists. They make a list, and one side is these are the things that I'm willing to show about myself, and these are the things that I'm never willing to show about myself. And you let that be your Bible when you show up online. You don't ever let yourself feel like, oh, I said I would never talk about my partner, but we had a fight and it would be really good content. So I'm just going to go on and do it. And then you have this vulnerability hangover afterwards because you think, oh, I didn't really want to talk about that. And now people think that they know it and they think that they can talk about my partner. So I'm not saying that that's what it has to be for you, but there are things that can totally be off limits. I'm a 2-4, and I run into people all the time or talk to people online all the time, run into the conferences, whatever. And it's startling to me sometimes as a second line. It's startling to me sometimes how well people think they know me. And there's like a whole me that never gets shown online. And I want them to know me, but I don't want them to have all of me because I have to be able to retreat. So you might have some of that in your design as well, where you need to keep some pieces for yourself, and that's okay. Rare is the person who's going to go lady balls to the wall and just be out there all the time and never have to take a break from it. Sure, they exist, but we don't all have to be that way. And I really would invite you to make your stories your own because they're where you're going to be able to be the most you. Does that make sense so far? I feel like I'm like standing on a soapbox here. Okay, Andrea, you take over because I'm like,
Okay. Something else I was going to add, which I think just complements what you were talking about, is that I invite you to never fill in the gap for someone
mm,
else in what you're sharing in your stories, which I think can be a beautiful way to guide when you are, in response or feeling like invited to share about something in your personal life. What I mean by that is you're never filling in the gap of someone else's experience in that exchange or in the thing that has inspired you to get on your stories. An example I love to give is that I was in the fertility space for a very long time. Took us a little over 8 years to conceive our miracle. And I shared a lot publicly about that on my Instagram and have a beautiful community from doing that. And my husband does not share publicly. So when I'm sharing about that, even now, sometimes I'll talk about being on the other side of it. I can share my perspective, but I'm not going to fill in the gap for how he felt, or I'm going to leave parts out for, what he might have contributed to an exchange. I'm going to talk about what came through for me so that I'm honoring his boundaries around social media. Because a lot of the time, I mean, what, 70% of the world is a generator type? We're in response. A lot of the time, like I feel very inspired to be in response, but it's not up to me to fill in the gaps for someone else. And I use that as a guiding principle.
Mhm. And I think that can go for client conversations as well. So the content that will convert the highest, it doesn't matter if it's just in stories anywhere, but it's important for people to know the work that you do. And there are ways to do that without, obviously, you're never going to name a client, but there are ways to do that without saying, yeah, I was working with this client today and she was talking about her fertility journey and she told me that it took over 8 years. And, like, you don't have to ever say any of that. But sharing case studies of the people that you've been working with, sharing stories of the people you've been in the room with is really important. I mean, actual stories that you're creating a story, not just the story on Instagram. But something like, let me think of one. I just got out of a client session and I'm so fired up because my client actually now understands how to use her sacral response as she makes decisions in her business. And if you don't know what that is, and you unpack it like that. So there are so many ways that you can work it in. And in your actual stories, Instagram stories, Facebook stories, all those things, people are wanting to hear that stuff from you. You're building yourself up as an authority in the space to people who already love you. If they're watching your stories, they want more of you. They're sticky to you.
I will build on that, and just saying that in that like that stickiness and that they already love you. What do you do yourselves on social media when a story pops up and you're not interested? You swipe past it. So the people who are watching your stories already love you. They already want more of you. They've already started to become sticky to you. So the more that you show up authentically, who you're designed to be, who you are, the stickier those relationships become in your stories, which is really fun. Like I've made friends through Instagram and through stories that I'm also a 2-4. I could hermit away and never do that. But it's actually brought forward some beautiful relationships because I'm just showing up as me, and the people who stick around want that, and the same will be true for you.
And then I think one of the other things as well is if you're uncertain of what, like, I see Laurel's face here in her beautiful sunshiny window, so I'm going to pick on her. But if you're uncertain, like Laurel is at the market and she's like, oh my God, how does this relate to my business? Well, think about that. How can I share this, what I'm doing, through the lens of my business? Not everything has to be about your business. It can be if that's the kind of account you want to have. But maybe, I don't know what Laurel's market is, but maybe she has a markets environment and she can actually use that as a post that helps people to understand that there's actually a place that you function better in human design. Or maybe she can talk about how it's great to be an entrepreneur because in the middle of the day, she can go out to the market and she doesn't have to be there on Friday night at 5 o'clock when everybody's going to wonder what they're going to have for supper. So there's lots of times that we can flip the things that we're doing into, actually, I can put a business lens on this. Can you give another example, Andrea? I know I can put you on the spot because you always have ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that has did not occur to me until recently because I do have a pattern of sharing whatever the heck is going on amongst my day, is that people are starting to ask me like, how are you living like that? Like, how is your life actually designed that
Mm,
way?
mhm.
So for me, it's yes, it's sharing from the business perspective, but it's also just sharing what you're doing in your day.
The
Like,
lifestyle.
yeah, sorry, thank you. That's a great way to say it. The lifestyle, because not everyone's an entrepreneur. Not
Mhm.
everyone realizes like the freedom that you have in your day or like the way that you've designed or set up your day. So I love like, show your coffee in the morning. You don't start before 11 because you go out and have coffee on the deck, you walk the dog, like show that stuff because you get to design your life that way. Um, when people ask you questions, this is another one of my favorites. When people ask you questions in your DMs, or if they know you really well and they're texting you, screenshot it, but protect their name and their image, their profile image, so that you're protecting their anonymity. I can never say that word. Let them be anonymous. And you can share like, I love getting questions like this. It doesn't occur to me that not everyone lives like this. And here's how my life flows.
Which brings me to another one. Um, doing a Q&A day on your stories is really powerful. It is powerful for engagement. It's powerful to kick your butt into gear on creating content. It engages your audience like crazy. You can do a thing on your feed that says, I'm going to be going live in my stories for 24 hours on Thursday this week. Send me all of your questions. Like I would put that everywhere. I'd put a countdown timer in your stories. Andrea's got all these things in the document for you as well. But then asking people to ask you questions. And if you don't have questions coming in, then you can ask people in your life to send you questions because you're going to stroke out the name anyway. So you can ask them, could you ask me a couple questions about human design or whatever your particular modality is? Excuse me. But that can be a really powerful, those are always my highest engaging days are when I do Q&As. I haven't done one in a while, so I'm probably overdue for one. But Q&A days are really powerful. And you have a theory about, Andrea, when we use question stickers and polls and all those things. You want to talk about that?
Yes, my mind was just going there. I love that. So when you're inviting people to engage with you in your stories, inviting, and they're responding, you've just hit 90% of the population, right? Between the two generator types, Jenny and Mangen, and projectors, that's roughly 90% of the population. I think I'm doing math right because manifestors are 9 and reflectors are 1,
Yeah.
right? Okay, thank you. I'm making sure I'm mathing. So you're hitting about 90% of the population just by creating stories with engaging stickers and features. Which, yes, we want to create content in a way that is authentic to us, but when we think of um, our ideal clients and customers that we want to engage with us, 90% of them are going to feel like they have something to respond to, or they're going to feel invited to connect with you and engage with you. And 90% of people responding to you or feeling invited to is a really powerful number in social media.
But definitely, definitely. Um, that like we keep just like bouncing off of each other here. I hope that's okay with
Yeah.
you. We do have some notes that we're trying to follow loosely, but another
You are
thing that comes up a lot is like how do you navigate when you don't want to be on, or what about consistency? Has anyone here ever worried about being consistent? Yeah. So I am a second, we're both second lines. And I launched the end of February and I was like on. I went to a hotel for 4 days. I was on, and I have disappeared for a week and I'm back today. And it's totally okay. So I love the human design profile for how we show up online. I mean, we know that our human design profile is the role that we play. It's who we are here to be. It's how people will respond best to us. All of the things. Your profile is everything. So if you have to retreat from socials, then you retreat from socials. You don't have a contract with Mark Zuckerberg that says that you will show up from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday to Friday on social media. You are the boss of you in your business. And if it feels good for you to be on social media from Monday to Thursday, that's great. If it feels good for you to be from Friday to Monday, that's great. If it feels good for you to be there 3 times this week and then not again for a couple weeks, I would just trust that that's okay. And now I'm not talking about if you are in avoidance and you don't want to use your voice and you're afraid to say something. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about legit, this is how I show up in my business. And I have had 3 weeks, I think, of crazy amount of face-to-face client work. I don't have time to be going and storing about it. Yes, I probably should be. I probably should be bringing people with me on the journey, but it's like I get to the end of the day and I'm like, oh my gosh, we have to remember to take a picture of this, you guys. Okay, somebody remind me. Um, I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot to go on again tonight. And I'm not going to bother with it. I'm just going to trust my second line hermit. And there's something in that second line, that fifth line, that projector, the reflector, any kind, we can look for it in almost any design where it's okay to take a break. It's okay to pull yourself back. And sometimes it can make people hungrier for you. Andrea and I are going to do some myth busting as well about stories, but one of the things that I see floating around that drives me crazy is that you need to only do 3 stories a day, or you need to only do 2 stories a day. So there's different patterns or cadences of stories that you may choose depending on what you're looking at. There's something called a story reset. So you don't post anything. So your story is no longer active after 24 hours. There's nothing. So after your last story, over 24 hours, it's a blank slate. The thing that you most want to do after you reset your stories is do something important. For the love of God, don't show your dog and that you're out on a dog walk with no point to it. I mean, that's great, but not for that story. That story needs to be something like your newest podcast episode. You got invited to guest on someone's podcast episode. You have a new book. You have a new thought to share with them about their human design or whatever modality that you use. But it needs to be something that you really want people to know about, because more people are going to engage with it after you take that break.
Something
ahead,
else
Andrew.
that just came through, yeah, is thank you, is oh, I have a human design reading later today. Pop your link so someone else can book in with you.
Mm-hmm.
Because people engage the most with that story. So it's something that ideally is driving traffic into your business, or that is like income producing.
Income producing, yes. And stories are the only place that you can really put a hyperlink in Instagram. So people will be able to click on that link. We should have done I don't trust myself to mirror my phone while I'm on live. That kind of scares me a little bit, but we could do that in the group. We could do where I mirror my screen. But yeah, you can put links that are hyperlinks. So that's why we say, well, that's one of the reasons why selling in stories, because you can link out to your offer that you have, your readings, your Bodygraph reports. Please tell me that every hand will go up when I say, are you talking about your Bodygraph reports in your stories on a regular basis? It never fails. It never fails. People come in and they say, but my reports aren't selling. Why aren't my reports selling? And I'm like, well, are you talking about them? No. So talking about your reports, make yourself a deal that if you have some human design reports that you have created, or the templates that you're using and selling, make yourself a deal that you're going to challenge yourself to once a week, talk about that report. And I'm going to tell you how to talk about your report, okay? Because now I'm feeling really bossy. So please do not go in and say, you can get your human design report here. It's going to walk you through your strategy, your strategy. And I'm like, what are the words? And your type, strategy, and authority, or whatever the things are that it's going to walk you through. No, what I invite you to do is get on video if you can. If you can't, if you're not there yet, that's okay. Do some B-roll. So B-roll is like behind the scenes footage, you typing, you drinking a coffee, you making your smoothie, whatever it is like that. And talk people through why this matters. What is different in that person's life because they know how to use their strategy? How will understanding their authority make decision-making easier for them? What other tools are there that exist on the planet that aren't anywhere near as good as human design, and why? Make them hungry for actually the transformation that they are going to have after they read that report. Or talk about the problem that it's going to solve. Maybe you have a report that deals with hyperactivity with kids. Maybe you have a report that deals with parenting. Well, what are the struggles that parents are going through that this report would be the lifeline for them? That's how we need to talk about these things. Because even though we in the human design space, somehow we've gotten the notion that the field is saturated. We're not even at the tipping point yet. We're not even close, but it's just because we all are connected that we think that everyone else knows this. But I have been in the last Well, since December, I've been to 3 conferences with over 2,000 people at each one. And it is nothing for me to talk to a couple hundred people and have nobody know what human design is. People do not know. And astrology, if you're here and you're using astrology in your business, like how sexy is that? People want to know these things. Absolutely, they want to know these things, but they don't want to know it for the sake of knowing it. They want to know, how is it going to matter in their life? What's going to be different in their life? Make sense? Okay,
This is a complete pivot. Oh, you go ahead.
yeah. No, I was gonna say, I realized we were talking about consistency and I never went back there. So you go and then we'll make sure that we hit
Okay, then we'll circle
consistency.
back. This is a complete pivot, but sometimes we feel like our niche or like our area of the world, our area of business is saturated because that's all that we're following on Instagram, Facebook,
Mhm.
etc. So I invite you, if it doesn't inspire you, if it is not content that is changing your life and your business, if you are playing the comparison game, unfollow those people. Their feelings will be fine. You
Yeah.
can still be friends in real life, even if you know them in real life. Maybe you don't, but you will still be friends. You can
Mhm.
unfollow people so that your feed does not feel as saturated or that you're not stuck in comparison.
Mhm.
Because when we follow similar accounts, Instagram also recommends more of those accounts to us. And then all of a sudden, we are sharing things that make that market feel saturated when it isn't. And depending on how and if people are using AI in their business, a lot of that content can start to look the same, which is a whole nother topic, which can then maybe bring in some comparison and make it feel like it's saturated. So just unfollow everything that's not serving your highest good.
Thank you for saying that. I had a session with someone today, and we were laughing because she had just done that, had just unfollowed a bunch of people. And she said the thing for her was that she had to unfollow because she kept thinking everybody knows this. Everybody already knows this because her feed was filled. She's a human design person. Her feed was filled with all things human design. So then she would go to create content for Instagram and she would think, well, I have nothing new to contribute. All I'm doing is regurgitating these posts and I feel like there is a lot of that in the social media space where people are regurgitating a lot of the same content. And you don't need to regurgitate content that someone else has done because you have your own take on it. I have worked with so many women who have the coolest niches within the human design and astrology space. There is something that you do, and I'm sorry, I know that there are men here as well. It's just that mostly I get to work with women. So you have something that you do that is so freaking cool, that is really different than the way that others present human design, astrology, whatever modality it is that you use. And your stories is a beautiful place to highlight that for people. Your stories is a beautiful place to invite people into a conversation with you.
I love that. I'm working with a manifester right now. One of my clients is a manifester, and we actually just onboarded social media support for her.
Nice.
And yeah, it's been so fun to take. And that the social media support is a mini gem.
Mm.
And we're doing like a team meeting and an onboarding and like getting her used to the brand. And I loved like she's not as human design informed. She's becoming it. She's quite curious. But she asked something about because she's now started following some human design accounts. Would I share like this, but like recreate it with your brand colors, your brand images and stuff. And right away, it's funny. We both, the manifestor and myself, were like, what does that actually make you feel? Like when you read that, what comes to your mind? That's what we create. In this case, the mind, the brand of the brand. That's a whole other side story. But what actually comes through for you? Because that can be inspiration. Again, for 90% of the world, that's going to be like responding to what came through for them. It's an invitation to like completely either like debunk, agree, things like that. But because this manifestor and her strategy is to inform, she jumped right in. It was like really beautiful and said, "Oh, well, this is exactly how I would do that." And like informed the team, and boom, there's 3 pieces of content that were created out of that conversation. So sometimes we see those things that do inspire us to do things differently or to show up as ourselves. So I think that some things can be inspiring, but if they're not, get rid of them.
Yeah. And that was a conversation that came up in CPD yesterday as well, actually. So I'm just going to speak to that for a second. Was somebody was asking like how much is okay to share? I see all of these other accounts. Am I hurting myself by sharing something from someone else? Um, I think that when we do share, we need to give it context. So I think I shared something last week, and it was like something about women over 50 and all these different cultures. And I just put like, make sure you read the whole thing or something like that. If you're sharing something, like let's say that I'm just going to use human design. I know it could be astrology, but if you're sharing something human design and you're sharing it into your feed, into your stories, then do something, it's called a stitch incoming, but do something where you give your view on it. Do something like Andrea said, where you show, I agree with this because, or actually, I disagree with this, or, oh my God, I dealt with a client with exactly this issue, and here's how we worked through it using her human design. So give people some context when you are sharing these things instead of just what I see people doing sometimes is sharing things to, um, uh, well, I'm trying not to say it, but I'm just going to say it, to be lazy. So it's like we share things because you think, I don't have anything to say. So if I just share this, at least I'm filling up the feed with something. And like, there's no shortage of content on social media. So we don't need to worry about the social media world or the algorithm running out of content to share if we don't share something. It's like, okay, take a breath until you actually have something that you want to say. Or if you do have something that you want to share from someone else, give your spin on it.
I love that. And I'll add to that sometimes it's the pressure, right?
Yes.
And no
Anybody feel pressure for social media?
permission to release that pressure. You don't need my permission, but
Yeah.
permission to be like someone else, permission to be what you perceive as more consistent. Um, and like share, and then in that, that panic or that pressure, sharing other people's content without, and thank you, I couldn't find those words when I was talking a moment ago, but stitch incoming, right? And
Mm.
adding some context to it. And it's okay. You're going to show up authentically as you. That's the invitation, right? Exactly how you're designed. And then share content that is aligned for you and when it is aligned for you.
Mhm. Yeah. And when it's not, take a breath. Take
People
a breath.
get so curious when I am gone. I'm a 2-4.
Yeah.
And I might disappear for a day and I might disappear for weeks. I have no idea. I fell off the face of the earth after Easton was born. Not really. But people came along with me on this journey for 8 years. And then, like a month after he was born, I was like, what do I say? Now I have a baby. But people want to know. So I had to come back. And I know that
Yeah.
that's not your business. Maybe you do human design for fertility, and I really needed you a few years ago.
Yeah.
But people want to know. And when you show up again, they're going to be so curious to be caught up on like where you've been and what you've been doing, what you were processing or integrating. So yeah, show up when it feels good for you, and people will still be there for you.
So I feel like that has answered the consistency piece.
I know.
But just in case it hasn't, you get to choose your cadence. And it's okay if one day you do 3 stories and another day you do 10. Like I am most times inside the 4 walls of my house. Well, there's only so much that I'm going to talk about. Yes, client work and all those things, but if I'm out and about, there's a lot more to story about. I'm going to bring people with me. So you can choose. You can totally choose. There's no rule, there's no social media principle that is saying, Nancy, you only did 2 stories today. So you get to decide for you, and it doesn't have to be the same all the time. That's the point. This is real life. Stories are real life. So think about, what is my real life like? My real life isn't on all the time, and it's also not chill all the time. So we want to show that in our stories. Okay, I'm just checking my notes. Oh, we did have a note about don't be perfect.
Okay, my brain literally just went to, well, you're checking your notes. Can I just say, your rated is out, okay? I think I can say this. It's complete BS.
Mhm.
Nobody that is seeing your reels or your stories is gonna go to your grid or your feed and be like, this is not all beautiful Canva graphics. She used different fonts. What is she doing in her business? Why was she talking about being in response to something this day and then taking me along this client journey the next day? No one is analyzing your grid like that. It was very trendy, early Instagram to become curated and pretty. Nobody wants that. right? They want the real you, they want the authentic you, and your grid and your stories ideally will reflect that as well. And that creates more stickiness with your ideal people. Okay, I promise you. Use all the fonts you want. Don't use Canva at all. Doesn't matter. Do a okay. I talk about talking heads in the document when you do have a chance to look
Okay.
at the prompts. That is holding your phone in front of you and just talking. Okay, so you can do reels, but talking heads is when you're like, this is literally my entire face and I'm talking to you. Um, your whole grid could be that. Your stories could be that. If you, Kathy's not here. I love me some Kathy time. Kathy, can you please pronounce her last name for me?
Kathy Boshanko.
Thank you, Bojanko. And she is an active member of the Bodygraph community, and she jokes and calls herself Chatty Kathy. I can tell you right now that if she goes on her stories and does a talking head every day and it's about a different topic, I don't care because I love that woman and I am here for some Chatty Kathy. So show up as authentically you. It doesn't have to be polished. It doesn't have to be curated. Nobody's really looking for that anyway.
Yeah. And speaking of talking heads, anybody afraid to show up on video, like actually talking to the camera and post it? Okay. So I think that it's important to, I used to be as well. I think it's important to work your way through that over time. I don't think it's really super kind to your nervous system to say, okay, I'm terrified to go on the camera, but I'm going to go on camera from today forward. Like that's just not going to work. But I think taking the steps to get yourself a little more comfortable, because as we move through this age of AI that we're in, we're going to have to show more of ourselves as authentic creators. People are going to want to see more and more and more of us. Now, I'm like, how am I going to say this? Censoring myself. There's a big trend, or there was a big trend in 2024 towards faceless reels. And all of these accounts, that's what we have to talk about next. All of these accounts were talking about how you can just do faceless reels and grow your account, faceless reels and grow whatever. To a degree, yes. I mean, we're all sometimes going to be faceless, but we no longer live in a space where we can't show ourselves because there is so much BS that people need to see that we're real. So however you're going to do that. So we'll just finish up with a word about these other accounts. Andrea has some suggestions for accounts to follow. And then we're going to open it up for questions. Okay. And then we're all of us are going to remember together to take a picture.
And just before I share those accounts, I popped some starting ideas in the chat.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, of course. If you are not necessarily ready to do a talking head, it took me years to get there. Like judgment-free zone, right? You're gonna find your own pace. And I love what you said about the nervous system. But you can do things like doing a voiceover. So you can record something that
Mm-hmm.
is not your face and audio record your voice on it. Your voice like carries a frequency, right? You're still gonna draw people in that way and they get used to hearing you before you have like a talking head style piece of content. You can do blurry views, and there's all sorts of cool filters on your stories. So when you're in your stories, to create, it defaults to a little like white circle at the bottom to take an image or hold it and do a video. But if you scroll it, you can actually find different effects. And if you scroll all the way to the end, there's a search one. I wish they put that first, but if you scroll all the way to the end, there's search, and you can find blurry views where you can, maybe show a side view of yourself giving a reading, not actually recording the reading in that point, but like acting it out for a moment, and then doing a teaser about booking a reading with you. And it's more of a like blurry teased view. And you can do B-roll. And B-roll is footage that is like your everyday life that is not like your face or you speaking directly to the camera. That could look like your feet and the dog's feet. That could look like I love when you're at the cottage and you have your feet off the dock
Mm-hmm.
and record
I
it.
love that too.
Right? I bet you do. You're probably missing it this time of year in Canada.
Yeah.
Um, but it can look like anything that really isn't that forward facing or like talking head style, where people are still getting glimpses into your life, but it's not like your phone is right here.
Mm. And someone is asking, will stories automatically split up longer videos? I always record 1 minute videos, so.
Oh, That's a good question. Yes. So if you've pre-recorded a video and you upload it to your stories, Instagram is going to section it into smaller portions. Same is true with Reels. If you're, I know we're talking about stories today, but if you're, this is just coming through for a reason. If you're uploading to Reels and your account has gotten the update, you can share up to 3-minute Reels now instead of 90 seconds.
Mhm.
Um, a way to get around on your stories the longer video is to record it and post it to your feed and then share that post from your feed to your stories. And people can click in and watch the full video without it being cut up. And way less time for you to try and like play with it. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to say something about that. And please, I really wish I had thought to mirror my phone, but just like hang with me here, especially if you're a little bit familiar with stories. So when you go to share a reel to your stories, when you hit the share button, the little airplane-y button, you will see a button that says copy link, and then you will also see share story. It can be a really good idea to copy that link and put it in the story, that you copy the link and then share the story so that you're giving people a spot. If you follow my stories, you've seen me do this a lot of times, but you're giving people a spot to actually click on to see the whole reel. Because not everybody knows. We're entrepreneurs. We're on here all the time. We're doing things all the time. Not everybody is doing that. Like a lot of people that you're going to be attracting maybe won't be super savvy about the thing. So I like that little hack to put the link in there for the story, or sorry, for the reel, to make them go and see the entire thing. And so this is another thing, like I still don't go, I don't think I've ever gone live in my stories. I just like to record the 1-minute videos and then upload them one at a time. I don't know why I do it that way. It's probably more steps for a manifesting generator than is necessary, but that's how I'm rolling. And I find for me, it helps me to get a little bit more succinct when I can just like focus on that 1 minute at a time in what I need to say. Um, this is interesting. Michaela, I think, is saying, I think faceless reels only work if you're seeing low ticket digital low ticket digital products really. Yes and no. I love that you brought that up. Thank you for this because I really want to respond to this. I would love for us to not to believe any statement that's made about what works and what doesn't, and just try it out for ourselves. What's your profile, Michaela?
I'm a 3-6, so I've tried everything.
I was gonna say, you of all people shouldn't, you're on the replay now. Is that okay? Sorry, I should have
Yeah,
warned you.
that's
Okay.
okay. Yeah.
Okay. Um, of all people, a third line, please try all the things. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
important.
have. Yeah.
So important. And I also think so with this comment that Michaela made, um, I mean, fifth lines are the wizard behind the curtain. Like they can do so much in their marketing sometimes that's unseen. They can be beautiful when they are hidden away and make people really a lot hungrier for them sometimes. So we always get to say in this space, in the human design and astrology space, we always get to say, well, that depends. One of the notes that I had, this is the last thing that I'll say, and then we'll open up for questions. But one of the notes that I had for myself was like letting go of that advice that it's not about you. Because many of our designs, it actually is about us. So many of the women that I work with have been trained to never talk about themselves in their marketing. And then when I look at their whole design, it's all integration, individual circuitry, right angle cross. I'm like, what the hell else would you talk about? Like, yeah, thank you, Karen. Yeah, like, yeah. I mean, there's so many of us. It doesn't mean that it's all about us, but people are going to learn through our experience. Some of us have these designs where we bring others through our experience to teach them the lesson that we need to teach. So there's no hard and fast rules. You get to make your own rules. You get to look into your own design, into your own astrology, whatever it is for you, and make your own rules. Hello, precious little one. So, Andrea, do you have anything else before we open it up for questions? I think we made our way through the notes in a roundabout way.
We did for too many gens. We're doing all right.
Mhm.
I was going to share a couple accounts.
Oh, yes,
And
thank you.
these aren't human design or astrology accounts. These are accounts that are their entire business is to help you grow on Instagram. So I'm going to share some accounts with you. And then I'm also going to caveat this by saying, please, please do not get attached to their follower account because their entire business is to grow on Instagram, right? So if they don't have a high follower count, they're probably not doing what they say they're doing.
Yeah.
But strategy, if you're ready to get more active on your stories and start selling through them, could be to pick one or two of these style of accounts, again, where their business is all about helping you grow on Instagram, and start absorbing the free content. They post one or more times a day. They are active in their stories, and everything they share is about helping you grow. So following 5 of them is probably going to feel like a lot. I'll leave that up to you. But find one or two that you really jive with and search it out. If you search in the top of your Instagram search bar, Instagram growth, and then click on the little menu bar underneath it to accounts, because it's going to default to For You, which will include reels and all sorts of things. If you go to accounts, you're going to see an entire list that you can keep scrolling on and creep these profiles, these creators, to see who you really vibe with. But a few that I really like, and I have to look at my very important post-it note that I write them down on, is I'll put them in the chat too, Miss Carolyn Flett. She has a great story. She again started this account from 0 and has grown it massively. Brock 11 Johnson. And a little side note for him, he won't talk about this as much on his social, but he's the son of Shailene Johnson, who was a fitness personality for a long time, and who monetized 8 different income streams over a decade. And so he was raised in this, which I really sometimes appreciate the humor that he brings through from that. I will type them onto the chat so that you don't have
That's
to.
what I was going to ask you. Thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely. I am Michelle Gifford. I think that's one that you really enjoy.
I really like her.
Really
I find
enjoy.
her so real. Yeah.
Yeah, very relatable, right? She's just
Mhm.
herself. And then Liz on the web. And I'll put that in liz.on.the.web. She's really fun. And then I've unfollowed a few recently because I was following way too many. So I'm just scrolling in my unfollows here. Oh, Nomad to Riches is really good. She's a newer account, but in just over 300 posts, she's got 25K followers. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. I'm going to type them in the chat while we open it up for questions. Yeah, you're so welcome.
And just please do remember that, like Andrea said, for these people, their job is helping people grow on Instagram. That is what their account is for. So no comparing your follower count to their follower account and thinking you're doing something wrong. You do not need, not that you can't have them, but you do not need 16 million followers. It's all about, as you've heard me say, if you've been here before, Andrea, you're frozen. I'm going to type this here for her. 1,000 True Fans, the work of Kevin Kelly. If you haven't heard of that, it's for those of us that are personal brands. 1,000 true fans is all it takes to get a really solid business going. Okay, I'm going to answer this one question and then we'll open it up for more questions and we'll hope that Andrea gets back. She's going to type those in the chat for us when she's back. Is there anything in my chart that I should be looking at that could help me be more engaging, attractive for viewers? 3.5 mg. So, I mean, I would want to see your entire chart to give you an analysis of what you're here to say and all of those things. But as an MG, you have this great big bountiful aura that is going to draw others to you when you are in response. Respond, respond, respond. My signature course is Content by Design, and I bring people through it. And no matter how many times people come through it, even human design informed people, they come into the module that's all about creating content according to your strategy, and they go, huh, I'm using my strategy in so many areas of my life, but why am I not using it to create content? Generator, why do I not give myself permission to just create when I'm in response and forget about the rest of the time? When you create as an MG, which is the person who's asking, when you create something in response in your stories, you will be magnetic. You can trust your design. 3.5s, we want to see you living life. I want to see you living life. You're my favorite people. But for 3.5s, you're designed to be unhinged. You're designed to be really in it, trying all of the things, saying the things that nobody else will say, all of those things. So how can you show up as that? But really, the very first thing that I would start with is being in response as an MG. It's going to make all of the difference. I really hope that Andrea comes back. I'm just going to text her and make sure that she can get in, but I can take.
I'm here.
Oh, you're here. Yay. I'm like, where is she? I don't even see you still. Okay, so are you going to type for us those
am.
names? Okay.
Thank you. And so sorry, my Wi-Fi is gone, so I'm hotspotting, so I'm going to turn off my camera.
Oh,
Not.
okay.
I'll leave it on. You just tell me if it
No,
gets funky and clicky.
I,
And then
I will. I will. Okay, does anybody have a question? We'll stay for about 10 minutes or so for questions. Or something you want to share about using stories, any of the things. Hey, Karen.
Hey,
Hi.
I've covered this. I had to pop out for a little bit, but did you talk about how to just even begin?
Like how to actually create a story?
Yeah.
I don't think we did. I'm going to do, like we didn't, sorry, I'm going to do the brave thing here and I'm going to try to mirror my phone.
Okay.
Maybe.
I believe in you.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be so sure. And please remember that if you do unmute yourself and come on to talk with us with a question, you will be on the replay. I should have said that again. Does anybody know how to, I know I have it set up on my computer, but does anybody know how to mirror from Zoom? I don't see it. I don't see it. Okay, so let's all do it on our phones. Let's all do it on our phones. We'll go to Instagram. You got yours there, Karen? Okay, so go to Instagram and go to your own profile and hit the little plus button at the top and choose story. And did it open up your pictures? Okay, so choose something that you want to put on from there. I'm going to choose a picture of Colby, but I'm not going to actually share the picture of Colby. Pardon?
Or take a
Oh, yeah,
picture
we
of
could
us
do.
and tag,
Yeah,
tag Bodygraph.
yeah. So Karen, I lost you there. Okay, so Karen, do you see your picture in the screen there? Okay. So then you see along the top, there's like the AA, and then there's a square, and then there's a music note. So the AA is going to allow you, when you tap on that, that's going to allow you to add text. The little happy face, that's going to be where all the fun stuff lives. When we put the replay up, I will do a screen recording of this so that you can go in and see all of these things. If you're looking at your phone, you're going to see your location. If your location service is on your phone, you can say where you are. Safety first. If you are a woman out alone in a scary area, don't put your location on your Instagram. Maybe don't put your home address on your Instagram. You can also, like I have my location services off all the time, but when I want to use it, it'll prompt me to let them use it once. You can mention others in your story. You can add music. So the photo one is fun because you can add another photo in a smaller scale. The frames is also fun because that will bring up a photo to put in the frame. What I would do if you're really new to starting out with stories, I would play with each and every one of these things. Don't post it if you don't want to, but put a picture up and then try all of these things. Look at how to put a link in, look at how to put a product in, any of those things that you might be doing, and just really play with it, but give yourself a deadline. I know triple split, but I'm going to say give yourself a deadline anyway and say I'm going to play with this for a week and then I'm going to post my first story.
Okay.
There's also a place, Karen, where you can put your own music over top, which could be fun for you
Okay.
with all the musical stuff that you do.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Thanks.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I apologize that I didn't think to have that mirroring thing set up for you, but I will put that with the replay. Okay, other questions for conversation around stories? Oh, okay, there is a question in the chat. Instagram question, do you recommend to buy the blue hook to show verified account? it's not super, super necessary. I think that a lot of times bigger accounts have it. I have it because I wanted to be able to put links directly from my Instagram rather than through a link tree or a third-party site. So you can only put one link in your bio, and most often people that want more than one link, they will go to Linktree or something like that, or create a page on your website. I used to have that where you lead people through, but I wanted the links directly on my Instagram, which I'm just thinking now, Andrea, probably one needs to be changed. I probably still have my launch on there. So, yeah, that's the advantage of that. And it's something about identity protection, account protection as well. So if you feel like you need that, that might be something to think about. It's about $20 a month. So that's something to think about too. If you don't need it, then I wouldn't spend the money. But if you do,
And Michaela has her hand up, but I don't know that
oh,
you would
sorry,
see that
Yeah,
in
I do.
studio.
sorry.
Sorry, Vicky, thank you for this. You opened a loop, but I'm not sure if you closed it. You were talking about, you said something like, I'm not going to tell you that you need to post 2 stories a day or 3 stories a day, or did you mean to say that there's like, it's just like post whatever, whenever? I don't know. You just kind of went on a tangent and then you didn't, and my brain's just still on that. So
That's my
what was it?
specialty. I go around and around the mulberry bush before I land. Yes. Yes, there's no way for me to say, or for you to say for yourself, even, like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can do as many as you want. Some days you'll do lots. Some days you won't do very many. Some days you won't do any at all. And that's okay.
Because I find I think for me it's that I just don't even find any draw to even look at people's stories. And I do sometimes like, why are they posting this? Like, what's that telling me? It's like I get more of a hit from looking through the feed because it's like, oh wow, yeah, that's brilliant. And just and then I find that the stories can be a little bit mundane. Maybe that's like bad to say that, but I get it now. Thanks for explaining it. That actually makes so much sense that, and I think I probably will have a look through, but I don't spend very much time on the app itself. It's literally post and then engage a bit and then go. But I get it. I think this is kind of something's just clicked for me. Something fell into place. So thank you for that. And then I arrived a little bit late, so I'm sorry about that. But did I miss the workbook? I know there was mention of that.
Oh,
on
it's in the
email.
chat. Andrea, would you be able to put that back in? When
Thank
when
you.
she's free there, she'll put it back in, and we will
Thank you so
also
much.
put it with the replay for you.
Great stuff.
Um,
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I'm smiling when you ask this because I never look at stories. I don't spend a lot of time on social media at all. I go in, I do my thing, I engage. Even when I'm in my stories, I go in, I pop my stories in, I get out. So Andrea and I, that's our running joke because I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get it. They don't appeal to me at all for watching them, but I don't do a lot of things. Like I don't scroll a lot on social media at all. So yeah, there's that. Yeah, it's funny. Story of her life, Andrew's saying, yeah. Okay.
But
Anybody
I
else?
also just wanted to, well, I'm
Yeah,
just
go
going to
ahead.
share it on the podcast too, but you're not kidding when you say that because we were in Canmore, I don't know, 6 or so years ago now, 7 or so years ago now. That's a beautiful mountainous range, very high tourism in Canada. And we're standing in front of this beautiful mountain and we take this picture and our arms are, I actually put it on my stories today.
I'll share it.
Yeah, okay, perfect. I actually put on my stories today. And you were like, who would want to know this? Because you were trying to just put on stuff on your stories because you don't watch stories. And I'm like, okay. People want to know your everyday, whatever the heck you're up to. They do. And today, you have traveled as far across the country almost as you could go. There's maybe 2 other airports past where you landed. You're in front of this beautiful mountain that some people like wait their whole lives to see. And you're standing here and we're taking this beautiful picture and you're like, but who wants to know? So people want to know. And it doesn't have to be that you're standing in front of a mountain. But if you're not someone who consumes stories, I wonder if that's a story you tell yourself a little bit more often than those of us who consume stories. And it's okay. People are still going to watch your stories even if you post it and go.
I'm just
So
taking a picture.
sidebar. I love a good sidebar.
Okay, smile. Okay. Yes, that's very, very, very true that often don't see I do see the point now though, for building your business. I do for sure. Okay, I'm just gonna read this last comment and then we'll go. I love the idea of posting my 3-5 way of life instead of thinking, how can I sound wise? Oh, sweet Jesus. Yes, yes, post yourself. 3-5 all the way, all the way, all the way, all the way. And it's not about, yeah. And so the projector piece, it's like you can assume that you've been invited because people are following you. If they're looking, I see you, Judith. If they're looking, then if they're looking at your stories, then they've elected to follow. They want to hear what you have to say, but you don't have to show up and be like this wise, serious guide. You can just live your life. Judith, what's up?
Yes. Well, I'm also 3-5, so it's a lot about experimenting.
Yeah.
But I have a question for you. I tried to post some questions already, like sometimes I post polls, like just yesterday I posted like, do you know your human design authority? And then I listed all the no, I didn't list all the authorities because it's not possible, but something like this I asked, or then I asked like specific human design questions and I get no answers. And I'm like, okay, I guess my audience has no clue what to ask me. So is there a better way how I can ask questions related to human design, but don't ask them in a human design way?
Yes, thank you. You're answering the question that I was, yes. So I would say, have you ever made a decision that you regret? Yes or no? Do you know how to make decisions that feel good in your body? Yes or no? Like I would be asking more like take human design right out of it. And then the other thing that I'm really glad you brought this up, Judith, thank you, because the other thing that I think that we need to remember is that we are not going to get 167 responses the first time that we post a question or the 20th time that we put, like we are really training our audiences to respond. So if it's important to you, like if there's things that you want people to vote on and things like that, are there people in your circle that you could ask to go and vote so that it looks like people are voting? Okay.
Yeah, there are some.
So I've been terrible at this lately, resharing the results, but then when you do reshare the results, it shows people, oh, people are engaging with her. Oh, it's fun to engage with her. But you got to kind of get the ball rolling first. So if you need to have some people in your world jump on, and if there's some of us here that are following each other, we can always give that gift to the other person. We can always hit the like button when we see an Instagram post go by of somebody that we know from this community, or we can always, if we're watching stories, engage with them.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Thank
And
you.
I'm going to add one other thing is after posting something like the poll feature or the question sticker and things like that, even if someone didn't respond, nobody knows that but you.
Exactly.
At all. Like nobody knows that but you, which I mean, in our heart, sometimes it's like, oh my God, would you just respond to me? But you could also go on your stories, whether it's posting a picture and using like text caption or doing a voiceover with closed captions or doing a talking head, 3 different ways to approach it, and say something that came through for me today is nobody here knows what their human design authority is. And oh my gosh, wouldn't your life be so much easier if you did? So what I'm going to do next week is post a mini training for you. I'm going to like either pre-record it, I'm going to go live my stories, put the countdown sticker. I go crazy with a bazillion ideas forward. You can always tell me to slow down, Sally. But I'm going to do a mini training about authority and why it matters to you so that the next time I ask this question, you know your authority and you're even going to know why you should be using it.
I'm really glad you said mini trainings because I used to do a ton of those. Those will grow your following and your stickiness with your people like nothing else will. I used to even have a highlight. I don't think I have it anymore because I had to clean them up with mini trainings. So what I would do when I was doing that, now we're really going so much for we're going to be here for 5 more minutes. What I used to do was put it in my feed. Mini training day in my stories today, because I want people when they see my feed later on to be like, oh my gosh, I need to watch your stories because what if she does one of these mini trainings again? I don't want to miss it. So I would always put them on my feed as well, even though it might be days later when they see it. And then in my story, I would be like, okay, I'm going to do a mini training on making aligned decisions using your human design. I'm going to do a mini training on, I don't know what all, emotional authority. I did tons of them on emotional authority. So whatever it is for you in your business, but some sort of a mini training, again, I'm seeing Laurel. So Laurel could do about, she does feng shui and human design environments, that sort of thing. So she could tie that in. Karen is a music teacher and an artist and a poet and all of these things. So she could do a mini training on something to do with music or how to use your human design and what acoustics. I don't know. There's so many things that any of us could do mini trainings on. That you probably didn't need me to give all those examples, but here we are again. Yeah. Okay. Are we all out of ideas? You're never out of ideas for this stuff, but yeah. So the workbook is there. Oh, Karen, yeah, jump out.
Really quick question. I thought you said that that they only last for a certain amount of time.
Oh, thank you for saying that. Yes, 24 hours. So there's highlights on your, if you go to your Instagram account again, if you've got your phone there and you go to somebody's account, doesn't have to be yours. If you haven't been doing stories, you won't have this, but you see the little circles underneath? Those are the highlights. So you can make a highlight for human design. You can make a highlight for whatever you want these highlights for. And everybody needs to have one for testimonials and client wins. Everybody. Your latest offer needs to be there. So these little highlights, that's where you can put your stories. So they will live there longer. You can put 100 clips from the stories in each one of those highlights. So I think we need to open up again the boot camp that was on. We did a boot camp on this. So I'm going to see if we can get that to you guys with the replay as well. It was 5 days of setting up your Instagram account. But the thing with these highlights is that you can look at it like a mini website. So there's some people who are just going to be on social media. They're never going to go to your website. They're never going to go to your email list. But if you have these highlights set up, it's like a mini website that they can go through. I don't watch stories, but if I want to check somebody out, I go to their feed and I go through all of their highlights. And that's just it's a collection of their stories. So think about the things that you would want in those highlights that would lead people closer to working with you. And that's where a mini training can be really good, is to live in that mini training highlight. I appreciate you asking that correct question, Karen. Thank you so much. Because I get off on these tracks and yeah. Yes. Oh, thank you, Andrea, for saying that. Okay, so Andrea said reports and readings show so well in highlights. Your Bodygraph reports, the human design chart, like I have one of my freebies is for one of my highlights is for freebies. Because then you're moving people from your stories to your highlights to your email list. Now we're cooking with gas. Go into my email list, I'm going to sell you a Bodygraph report. So now we have an ecosystem that we are building up where we're actually creating steps for people to move through our businesses. But reports, yes, please, please, please talk about your reports and your stories and get them into a highlight. Who knew that sermon was coming? Okay, so what we're going to do is I would expect it to take a couple days for Gittes to get the replay for us. That's his job. So he will get the replay for us and have it. It'll be in Business Mastery Hub. We'll make sure that the worksheet is with it with all those Instagram story prompts. Maybe Andrea just pop it in one more time just in case for people. And then I'm going to see if we can get the bootcamp videos to you as well. If you want to look at them, just if you're setting up your Instagram from scratch and you want to go through that. It's like really quick tasks every day, but it'll have you in a good place for getting started growing your business.